Hello, I'm Zach Laws.
And I'm Zach Moore, and this is our next episode of Zach to Zach.
Today we're going to be talking about Foxcatcher, which was my personal favorite film of last year, and Zach has just seen it for the first time last night.
Mm-hmm. And in honor of the movie, I've dressed up as a wrestler right here. It's pretty accurate, I think, to the movie costumes. And I've gotten Steve Carell's murder vehicle in the movie, and I'm gonna go hunt some foxes.
Driving around in the snow, just like
go catch some foxes. That's what happened in the movie. I didn't watch it. But yeah, I'm not actually sure if there are foxes in this game, but let's find out.
So, I'd seen the movie 3 times. This is your first time seeing it. Do you want to have some initial impressions of it?
John DuPont is a weird man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, I was looking up facts about him, and it's like the movie, like, you think the movie's like might be like a little over the top, but no, it tones him down.
Mm-hmm.
Like the stuff, like I told you, I found out, like, on top of him buying a tank, he, like, in real life, he got the wrestlers to go into his attic to search for ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to hunt for foxes, tried to catch a bunch of baby foxes using dynamite.
Not the way that you hunt foxes.
Yeah, you could do that in this game, though.
Yeah. So I think that the movie paints a sympathetic portrait of the man, more so than I think he deserved in real life. But I think.
Well, I think he was definitely, like, he had some crazy issues.
Yeah.
Like, it's
but
sort
it
of
does,
like he wasn't just like a evil businessman. He was just like a dude who was just like something was not right.
I think there are moments where you sort of like feel for the guy because, you know, it's made very clear in the movie that he's a very rich man who has no friends, no real friends, who haven't been bought.
It's basically, oh shoot, I lost my door. It's basically been completely out of touch from reality, like, his entire life.
Yeah. And I mean, he was probably gay, or at the very least asexual.
When I was looking up facts about him, they said that he I think it was Villanova. He was in charge of their wrestling program, and he was let go because one of the teachers said that he made inappropriate homosexual advances toward him.
Yeah, and I mean obviously, I don't think he could do anything about it because he came from this wealthy family, and there's an expectation of you when you're in the upper 1% that you're not different, I should say. You know,
which is funny because he's like, being gay would have been the most normal, regular thing about him.
Yeah. So I mean, I think
that's fine. It's all your other weird stuff.
Yeah. So the wrestling thing probably came as a way for him to have contact with men and have it be appropriate.
And, like, in a way that's still seen as, like, very masculine.
Yeah. I think the movie's a really beautiful metaphor for how the upper 1% just takes advantage of the rest of us. That's a fox. Looks like a fox. Catch it.
Okay, wait. Maybe this is unfair, but I'm the fox against machine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, oh shoot. Nature is taking its revenge. Anyway, what were you saying?
I think the movie's a beautiful metaphor for how the upper 1% takes advantage of the rest of us and just sort of gets away with it. I mean, you have these 3 men in the movie. In addition to John DuPont, you have the 2 wrestlers, Mark and David Schultz. The Schultz brothers, who were both Olympic gold medalists, and both had a really rough upbringing. It's stated in the movie that they came from a broken home and that Dave, more or less, raised his younger brother. Dave being played by Mark Ruffalo in the movie, Mark being played by Channing Tatum.
I saw the focus on Channing Tatum and Mark Ruffalo. No, Channing Tatum and Steve Carell. I feel like Mark Ruffalo. Like, he gives, like, a really, like, it's really subtle, but it's a really, like, good performance.
Yeah. He's really, he's the humanity in the movie. He's the one decent person out of all of them. You know, the one fully decent. Like, his motivations are just looking after his family and looking out for the best interests of his brother.
Like, he really gets that, like, just a regular guy thing down. I
Yeah.
feel like it's hard for a lot of actors to just be, like, a believable, normal man.
Well, I think that's why Mark Ruffalo is perfect casting for that, because he really is that sort of just average guy.
Just the everyman.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him once at an awards thing for the movie, and he was the only celebrity I saw who just like stopped to talk to the regular folk. You know, just like made a point of introducing himself to the average people.
The fans.
Yeah,
It's not a Fox, but I can catch it anyways.
Beep beep. Yeah, so it's like he's the good guy in the movie, and it makes it very tragic what happens to him at the end.
And it caught me by surprise. Just like that car. Because the trailers definitely set it up as like Channing Tatum, or like it's Mark Schultz versus John DuPont. And his brother's sort of like a side character.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you're just like, oh man, like Mark Ruffalo's character is the one who actually gets like tragically murdered. There's a fox. There's a fox. I caught one.
Yeah. And it's like the more I think about the movie, the more it affects me, because you think of like Channing Tatum's character, you know,
I barely even hit him.
he drags the one person in his life who ever cared about him into this horrible web.
You're my fox now. Obey me.
Yeah.
I want to shoot him. Shoot him. I'm just gonna fall. Yeah. Let's talk about Steve Carell as John DuPont.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought he had that performance in him. I've always loved him, and I think you see traces of it in his character on The Office. They're both these, as you said, privileged weirdos.
Privileged weirdos. They both are a little out of touch with reality and sort of like... and I feel like in both of them, their position sort of lets them be out of touch with reality without a lot of consequences.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely, like, you could tell how his performance could have been, like, pitched just slightly different, and it would have just been, like, hilarious.
Yeah.
And he's just, like, toning it down a little bit, so it seems like he's just a real person. And it is kind of funny in a few spots.
In a few, yeah. I mean, but it's not in the usual, because he's a brilliant comedian, and it's not in that Steve Carell way of it being funny. You know, I've seen traces of his dramatic abilities before in the past in Little Miss Sunshine, and even in certain moments in The Office, but I think this is really, it's a different level performance for him, and I hope that it...
I feel bad.
Oh no. I hope it leads to...
Devoting my life to nonviolence.
And now you're on the run. Just like...
I know what I did.
Yeah.
How can I ever forgive myself for catching that fox? Yeah, and it's pretty much like a pitch perfect, like, it's not like, I don't want to call it an impersonation, because it's a performance.
Yeah.
He creates a real believable character, but it's also a character who is like identical to the real guy.
Yeah, and I mean the makeup's very convincing, but it's like it's not just a caricature. He gets down a lot of the same kind of voice and physical mannerisms.
And, yeah.
But he creates a real person in it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to have to go to commercial break, not because our camera's going to shut off automatically, that's crazy. And we'll come back in a minute.
All right.
Mark, 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 Mark. Good.
And we're back.
Fittingly, I parked at a police station. That was one of the like little bizarre touches that sort of set the mood as like this weirdo rich guy.
His involvement with the local police.
Yeah, because it's not even like highlighted. You just always see them in the background, just like hanging out with him, and it's just like, why are they there?
Well, it stems from like there's a video that's made in the movie, and you can find this on YouTube, where DuPont is trying to glorify himself. It's basically a fluff piece to talk about how much good he's doing with the wrestling team, but also how much good
I'm
he's...
going to put a link to that in the description of this, because that is just a weird, amazing video.
Yeah.
And it's on YouTube.
But there's all this stuff where he's like talking about how much good he's doing in the community, and you know, he used to go out on assignments with the local police force.
I kind of wanted, just because I was like, wait, what is he actually doing?
Yeah.
Are they like,
he's
just like raiding criminals with them? Or
they're
like,
just bringing him along to get more of his money. He wants to feel like he's a part of the community. Because, I mean, like, he has no...
I think it's even more than that. It's sort of this, like, I want to be like a cool, manly man.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, like, all the stuff he's doing is like fishing
and it's sort of like,
video.
Yeah. When you have that kind of money, it's basically anything you want, you can have.
Exactly.
If you want to be a police officer, you can. You can just
Yeah.
go do that without like any training. You say, here's $1,000. Let me ride along with you.
But the real tragic thing that I think is explored beautifully in the movie is that he just wants to be accepted. There's this moment in the film where, you know, and his mother, or we should mention his mother, played by Vanessa Redgrave, who's only in about 4 scenes of the movie and only has 1 scene of dialogue, but her character hangs over the entire film.
It's like definitely a super like psycho Norman Bates or Norman Bates vibe.
Yeah, but there's a moment where he's with Channing Tatum, and who's giving him a haircut, and he says, "You know, you're a really good friend." And when I was growing up, I only had one real friend, who was the son of my mother's chauffeur. And later on, I found out that she had been paying him
to be his friend.
Yeah, and it's a really, I think it speaks volumes in the film to his character.
Yeah, it's kind of like, that was the note where it made me think that maybe, like, painting him as like a closeted homosexual was almost too easy.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost just like there might not even be like a sexual thing to it. It's just he wants like a male friend.
Yeah, there's more.
It's sort of like the Michael Jackson thing where he doesn't really know how to appropriately do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's more to it than that. I think that's one of the great things about the movie, is that there are all these different layers that you can keep uncovering to the characters, and you keep finding things. I noticed something in the film for the first time last night as we were watching it. There's this scene where, after there's become a rift between Channing Tatum and Steve Carell, he's telling his brother that he can no longer stay there, and he's trying to get his brother to leave as well. And they're in Mark Ruffalo's office, what has become his office, and in the background of the shot against the wall, Channing Tatum is sitting. There are all these pictures of the wrestlers, and one directly behind him is of Steve Carell smiling with an American flag behind him. And so, like,
sort of like even though he's not in the scene, you can kind of like feel his presence.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, wow, that's a really cool touch there. Going back to his mother, I think the best scene in the movie for me, like, is after Ruffalo's character gets there. So he's basically called in to coach the wrestlers.
That's one thing, going back to what I said about, like, if you have enough money, you can get pretty much anything you want. He was just like, I want Dave Schultz to be my wrestling coach.
Yeah.
And, like, he got it.
Yeah.
He was just like, I'll just give him however much money he wants.
Yeah. So he's there.
You can't buy a friend.
You can't buy a friend. So he's there, and he's training these guys, and they're running around in laps, and Carell is just watching over it. And then this decrepit old woman is wheeled into the gym, and it's his mother.
Well, we've been introduced. We've seen
right. But he calls the wrestlers over and starts teaching them these very basic wrestling moves in front of his mother.
Yeah, it's like, and you're kind of like, these are like Olympic wrestlers. Like they know.
Yeah. But he's
Yeah.
doing this, and they're all just making a show of it, and she gets wheeled out, and immediately everything goes back to the way it was. And the look on Mark Ruffalo's face of, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?
It's really subtle too.
Yeah.
Like that's a really good example of him. It's just like he's not like making googly eyes.
Yeah,
But you can totally there's some
you can tell what
you can
he's
totally
thinking.
see it in his face.
Yeah.
Like what he's thinking.
And you realize that's what it's all about. Like, he's just trying to prove to this old woman that he can do something on his own, and that he can be a man and a leader, and
And
inspire
he wants
people.
to be a wrestling coach.
Yeah.
Regardless of any expertise or experience in wrestling.
Right.
He buys himself an Olympic wrestling team.
Such a beautiful movie. The one bright spot in my Oscar coverage this year was its 5 nominations. Even
What was it nominated for?
It was nominated for directing, which Bennett Miller won the Director Award at Cannes, and then didn't get nominated anywhere else throughout the season. Not at the Golden Globes or TGA.
It's pretty brilliantly made, but it's really subtle.
It is, yeah, and I mean, give credit to the directors branch of the Academy for recognizing that, and there are so many. The more I watch the movie, there are so many really brilliant directorial touches. Like, there are moments in the film where the sound is taken out.
It happens a lot. It's like a motif.
Yeah, and it adds a lot of power to the images that you're seeing. You just hear this little
Fox just fell down the mountain.
Oh no.
Oh no, he's okay. Just want to be your friend. I'll buy your love. Catching the fox. Maybe the fox was Channing Tatum all along.
Maybe.
He was the fox he wanted to catch.
That's why he played a dog in Jupiter Ascending.
Dog catcher. That's...
But it was nominated for directing and nominated for actor for Steve Carell, supporting actor for Mark Ruffalo, which was like the only nomination it was expected to get. And then screenplay and makeup.
That dude is... Oh, shoot.
Oh, it was not nominated for Best Picture.
Only I will murder animals.
Go get him.
Yeah, and there were so many like even when I was watching it, just like the shot choices, they were just like it would cut it would be like Channing Tatum and Mark Ruffalo together, and they would cut Steve Carell just like watching it, and it's not like every scene he's in, it's just like this feeling of menace and just like, oh man, something's gonna happen, something bad is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And it's just really subtle and really well done.
Yeah, it's also a really great visual way to show the connection between Mark Ruffalo and Channing Tatum and the distance that Steve Carell has from their lives, because
he's always like watching outside looking in.
Yeah. Which one of the complaints I heard from people that really bothered me was that, well, a lot of the movies, Steve Carell's just kind of watching off in the distance. I'm like, well, what do you want him to do? Like, dance on the tables and just
that's the point is he's separated from these people.
Yeah. He was
raised with like $1 million spoon in his mouth. He doesn't know how to be like a real human being.
Yeah, it's harder to convey emotions as an actor when you don't have these long speeches in every scene you're in. I think that's like part of the brilliance of this performance. Robbed of an Oscar win, if you ask me.
Yeah. Okay, so I have to go throw to commercial again. I don't know what the commercial's going to be, but it'll be something. So we'll be right back.
We'll be right back. And we're back. So I think one aspect of the movie that probably has gotten overlooked a lot was Channing Tatum's performance.
He's really good.
He is.
It's probably the first like serious movie I've seen him in where he sort of gets over his like Channing Tatum goofball persona.
Yeah. I mean, I've liked him in a lot of movies before. Mostly just Steven Soderbergh movies. where I think he's proven that he has the ability to be a really good actor.
Mm-hmm.
I think this one was just, he was given a really great role.
Yeah.
And
well, I think he kind of has that
carry.
Chris Pratt thing where it's sort of like, it's hard, it always kind of seems like when he's being serious, like he's joking.
Yeah.
But like, not in this movie. Like, it's totally like he is that character.
This was the first time I felt he really disappeared into a character. I didn't feel like I was watching Channing Tatum.
Yeah. And his, like, the wrestling scenes were, like, amazing, were amazingly choreographed.
Yeah.
Like, they were just so, like, raw, and they're just, like, grappling with each other, and it's pretty intense.
There's also these really disturbing moments where he's seen abusing himself, you know. Just
when he smashed his head in the mirror. I read, he, like, it wasn't supposed to break like that. He actually, like, cut his head. And you can see that in the movie. Like,
yeah, that's right. I thought that was just movie magic. I didn't know.
Yeah, I was like, wow, I wonder how they did that. Like, no, he smashed his head in the mirror and had it real. And he even, like, that shot keeps going after he does that, so he was in the moment.
Yeah, which is a similar thing that happened to Martin Sheen while they were shooting the beginning of Apocalypse Now. That moment
and
where
he had a heart attack?
No, at that moment. It's you remember in the beginning of the movie where he's like alone in the hotel room and he's like doing all the weird jiu-jitsu and he's drinking and then he like breaks the mirror.
Oh yeah.
That was a real thing and he like cut his hand wide open and started bleeding all over the place and they just kept the cameras rolling because he was having this huge cathartic moment. You know, he was like crying
on the floor.
Yeah, and he said, well, and apparently Coppola was very conflicted about just yelling cut to get him some medical assistance because what they were getting was so raw and real.
And it's sort of like if Martin Sheen was like, I want to stop this, let's get it up, he'd probably say, wait out, like, stop this.
But getting back to Foxcatcher.
Going back to Foxcatcher.
we could do a whole podcast about Apocalypse Now.
Steal a helicopter.
Yeah. I
feel like I should steal a helicopter for this video.
You should,
Just because there's so much. That was one of the, like, helicopters was like almost like a weird motif.
Yeah.
It really sold DuPont's like weird lifestyle. It's just like, I'll pick you up in a helicopter. And you're just like, okay, like I could imagine him just like going to the store in a helicopter.
Yeah.
Like that's just like a normal thing.
Well, when you've got to traverse against that much landscape, I guess you have to.
Valley Forge. That's one thing that's interesting, the location. Like the fact that it was like right next to Valley Forge and just like American, all the American icons and stuff. That was one of the funnier bits where he kept being like, "This is for America."
Yeah, and I mean even
like,
the
that's
house.
almost like a Ron Burgundy quote.
The house was even that they lived in was also designed to
reflect
Martin Van Buren's, I think it was.
No, it was Monticello.
Monticello.
Yeah.
Oh my God, where did I get Martin Van Buren from? I guess his
We'll
name
start
sounds
with
so.
M.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
But it's just like that again is a really beautiful thing about the movie is that it's
and like you said earlier, it's sort of like this is how like the 1% treats the 99% in America, and it's sort of like the American symbolism kind of hangs over the whole thing. It's like American flags. And
there's like
the American landscape.
There's several moments where he's framed behind in front of an American flag. There's one in his office. There's one behind him in the front of one in the gym office.
And it's like it's purposeful in him.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I want to put myself, like he wants to attach himself to that sort of like iconography.
Yeah, he puts this stuff in Channing Tatum's mind about how he's like doing this because America has lost its morals and there are no values anymore, and Also, I want to commend the work of Greg Fraser, who shot it.
It looked. I was trying to figure out like what its like color scheme was, because definitely it was like blue and yellow were all super saturated, and everything else was kind of desaturated.
It has
a really unique look.
It has this very dark look to it. It's very gray and cold.
cold, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always smoky. There's some really beautiful like wide shots of
Yeah.
the fog going through the forest.
Mm-hmm. And it makes the whole thing look very ominous. And I think that's what
Like
you said. How like
every scene in the movie, you're just like someone's gonna get shot.
yeah.
Even if you don't know what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm. Like this feeling of dread hangs over the whole thing. I think that's a part of what kept it from going in the wrong direction of being comedic.
I was like imagining a comedy version of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could, where it's like you have this crazy rich guy character, he's sort of like humorously taking advantage of this like dumb wrestler to like clearly to like for his own ends and his own like glory, whatever.
Yeah. I think the thing that probably keeps that movie from getting made is the outcome. Let's talk about the ending. Let's talk about the ending of the movie. Like, that moment where he shoots Mark Ruffalo, and you just hear him crying in pain.
He keeps shooting him.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing to like I'm a crazy person, I'm gonna shoot you.
Shot him in the back.
Which is like awful.
Yeah.
But then he's crying in pain, and you keep shooting him.
Yeah. It's just really. I was talking about with a friend of mine about the movie John Wick. Which is a fine enough like action movie
that I still need to see.
Yeah, but like his big complaint about the movie, and it's just this is symptomatic of most action movies. So this is not to call out John Wick specifically, but whenever someone gets shot in John Wick, it's like a little red dot appears in their forehead, and that's it. You don't really feel anything from that, but this you really feel the effect of a gunshot on someone.
It's like you're taking a man's life.
Yeah.
Right now.
And it's even worse when you think about the fact that this was a real person. This was a person who had a wife and 2 children, and he's gone.
We loved and
yeah.
I really like the scenes with him, just with his kids. They felt like so like naturalistic.
Yeah.
He's just a real guy, really playing with his kids.
Yeah, the one decent human being in the movie, as we've said before, like.
I feel like Mark Schultz.
I mean,
was not undecent.
I'm not saying that he was undecent. I mean, like the one person.
One normal dude.
Yeah.
Like Mark Schultz, he seemed like a nice guy, but I think he had some issues.
Yeah, and I mean the one person.
At least in the movie.
The one person who truly loved Mark.
Unabashed.
Yeah. Which we should talk about, like the fact that there was a little controversy during Oscar season where Mark Schultz went on Twitter. The real Mark Schultz, who had been a supporter of the film for a long time, went on Twitter ranting against it and against the...
Actually, when I was reading it, because as soon as the movie, it's one of those movies where the movie ends and you're like, wait, I want to know what happens.
Yeah.
And I just went on Wikipedia and I read about that. And it was on like Facebook and...
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you can tell me in more detail.
Well, he was talking about how Bennett Miller would never work in this town again, and how nothing gay happened between him and DuPont.
And like I think Bennett, he responded because there was like that one scene where he's like wrestling with DuPont, and it's like it's just them, and I think Bennett Miller was like that wasn't supposed to be sexual. It was supposed to be like DuPont is encroaching on his like private space.
Right.
But it's like, you can definitely read it. I think you can read it a little bit.
You can read it that way. I mean, but it's true. I mean, either way, it's like, it's a violation. I think like...
Yeah, I think I choose to read the movie not so much as like the repressed gay man stereotype.
Right.
I think it's more complicated than that.
We need to take a quick break again.
Oh yeah, we do.
We'll be right back to talk more about this. So anyway, he later recanted all this stuff, and I think he claimed that he was drunk or something.
Grumpy, yeah.
I think what happened was that a bunch of like his friends probably told him, "Hey man, they think you look pretty gay in that movie."
I can imagine like wrestler friends.
Yeah.
Not being like into the deep subtext.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whoa, that's gay.
But I mean, just to talk in his defense for a minute. We could only imagine what it would be like to have a movie made about the single worst event in our lives, and to have to go,
especially go like
Yeah.
portray that relationship so like intimately.
Yeah, and then have to relive the moment when your brother was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who writes about the Oscars as well wrote something about the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And she, talked about how, DuPont never really got punished for what he did. I mean, he died in prison, but, he never really, went to real prison, as it were. It's like rich people prison.
Yeah.
But
I mean, he did, he wasn't, he didn't, his insanity defense didn't work. He got,
Right.
It was third-degree murder
yeah,
because he's
not
mentally ill, which is
right.
slightly different.
Right. But Schultz sent an email saying that, no, he really did suffer. He was punished.
Mm-hmm.
So either she got that wrong or, he has to believe in his mind that this man suffered for what he did. Yeah. Because, I can only imagine.
It's hard for me to see, what the, how could not be, mental
Yeah.
illness? What other reason would he have for killing Dave Schultz?
Right. I mean, it was later found that I think he was paranoid schizophrenic, which, is that right? Is that what it was?
I didn't see. I don't think they didn't really. They never really said why he killed
Right.
him.
But I mean, clearly that has a lot to do with him. But part of schizophrenia is paranoia.
Mm-hmm. And they did show in the movie where he hires a whole new security team.
Yeah, exactly. It's all very subtle. There are no moments of crazy Steve Carell. There's just these very subtle things.
It's just something has changed.
Yeah.
It's a little more threatening.
Yeah. But anyway, what did you think of the last scene of the movie?
With Mark doing the
MMA,
and it just cuts to black.
Yeah.
I feel like that was definitely saying something, because in real life he did, shortly after his brother's death, he did do an MMA fight, but that was his only one or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was just sort of how that system sort of treats people like that.
Yeah.
It's sort of once you're done, it's you don't really have anything else to value.
Right. I mean, there's a moment in the movie at the midway point where Mark is watching MMA with some of the other wrestlers on the team, and they talk about how, wow, that guy used to be a really great wrestler, and now look at him. I guess he's making money, but what a way to go.
Yeah.
I guess it's a way of showing that he's lost everything at that moment. There's no other way he can deal with it but to get humbled. Because I remember the first time I saw the movie, I saw it with some colleagues of mine from Gold Derby, and one of them was very confused as to why there wasn't a scene showing Mark Schultz react to his brother's death.
I think that's what
it is.
What that scene is.
Yeah.
How he's reacting.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought about it too, because the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, that's an odd way to end this movie, but I had to think about it for a while afterwards. And
I think, it sort of forces you to think about it.
Yeah.
What was that for?
I think a part of it too is just the moment when Dave gets shot is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to just go much of anywhere after that, it's such a earth-shattering moment.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
What?
It's such
what happened? And it sort of recontextualizes everything that came before.
I think that any moment that you could have of Channing Tatum crying would have just,
It would have been too on the nose.
Yeah, and I don't think it would have really made the point as well.
Yeah, the showing him doing that I think it was a more meaningful way of showing him dealing with his brother's loss.
Yeah.
And probably all sorts of crazy thought, of how he brought his brother, I'm sure there's feelings of responsibility for what happened.
Yeah. And again, there's all those moments in the movie where he's shown beating himself up, literally beating himself up.
That's true. That's what he's doing. I guess you could say that's what he's doing. Is he's beating himself up over his brother. That's the last scene.
Yeah.
I guess we can wrap this up.
Yeah, we have talked for a while, so I do want to say one more thing. Like it's
I'll say one more thing too.
just about the DuPont family and about further proof that this country is fucked up when it comes to the way that it punishes rich people. One of
and the power it gives to rich people.
So one of DuPont's cousins recently, I forget his name, but you can look this up online. Just Google John DuPont's cousin and rape. This guy.
This story isn't going anywhere good.
Yeah. So this guy admitted to raping his 3-year-old daughter. His own 3-year-old daughter. And the judge gave him probation on the grounds that he said, I don't think you'll do well in prison. So you're too rich to go to jail, basically.
That's insane.
Yeah. So admitted to raping his own 3-year-old daughter. Right? And didn't go to jail.
Well, it's like if you are rich enough, there are no consequences for your actions.
Got house arrest in his mansion,
Yeah.
It's like,
Mansion's basically a small city, probably.
What a punishment that is. Like, and it's just an example of how.
Well, it's sort of that idea where it's like your worth as a person is directly tied to how much money you have.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where it's like, but it's like these people, they didn't. Like, there's this myth of like you earn all that money, but it's like no, their grandparents earned all that money. They were just born into it.
Yeah. I mean, DuPont himself just inherited all of that.
Mm-hmm. He basically lived every day of his life having absurd amounts of money.
So,
I did want to say, my final word was, I think this was the first movie about super rich people that didn't make me want to be super rich.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, wait, having that much money kind of screws you up.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Even The Wolf of Wall Street, which I mean is. The brilliant thing about that movie is that it makes you kind of want to have that much money, but then it just kind of forces you to bring your own moral conclusions to it and say, no, wait a minute, this.
Like you would think that you'd be like, yeah, I wouldn't do that. I'd be the cool guy with that much money. I'd probably give a lot of charity, just buy like a few Ferraris, but I wouldn't go crazy. But no, it's like you would probably be the weirdo, just like he was.
I think there's something about when you have that much money, you just, you don't want to give it to poor people unless it benefits you.
Yeah. You want to use it to buy cool stuff for yourself.
So I guess we should wrap this up
Okay.
For the next commercial break.
End with an explosion. I'm Zach Laws. I'm not, no.
I'm Zach Laws.
He's Zach Laws. I'm Zach Moore. And this is Act to Zach.